everyone, it's Melissa, and today I am sharing what I read in March. First of all, I read in March and in February books for the BookTube Prize, and I have a dedicated video talking about those 6 nonfiction books. The books that I read were Blood and Ruins by Richard Overy, Keats, A Brief Life in 9 Poems and 1 Epitaph by Lucasta Miller. His name is George Floyd, and I can't remember the 2 authors on that. Samuels and Olorunnipa, I think, are their last names, but everything will be below. The Escape Artist by Jonathan Freedland, also a poet by Ada Calhoun, and I'm missing one. Read Dangerously by Azar Nafasi. So if any of those are books that you want to hear more about, I will link that video. In March, I also read Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. I have a standalone review for this, so I will make sure to link that. This is a historical fiction set in the early 1800s in Iceland, and it follows the real-life person, Agnes Magnusdóttir, who was the last person to be publicly executed in Iceland. This is a fictionalized account, but a fairly well-researched one from what I can tell. It relies a lot on the stark, gloomy type of setting. There's a lot of imagery surrounding decay and death. Agnes Magnusdóttir is sent to live with this farmer and his family. She has to live at their house while she awaits her execution, so she's there for her final months. The novel goes back and forth between current day while she is awaiting her execution and then back to flashbacks where you get her backstory of what happened with the murder that she is accused of having a hand in and what really happened. I really liked this, but I didn't love it like I thought I would. I liked the setting and I liked the buildup of getting piecemeal the backstory, and thought it was very compelling as you are waiting to get to the moment where you learn what happened the night of the murders. However, where I didn't like it so much was that even though you are in Agnes's head, you feel quite distanced from her, and I think a lot of that is purposeful because she is trying to separate herself from everything that's happened in her life and from her harsh reality that she is going to be put to death. I wanted to feel slightly more connected to Agnes, and I just didn't get that piece, but I did like this overall. I also read 3 middle grade books for middle grade March because I was just in the mood for some middle grade. I have a vlog where I go into a little bit more detail. The first book I read was The Prophet of Yonwood by Jeanne Duprau. This is the 3rd in the City of Ember series, the 3rd out of 4 books. This book is a prequel, and I really can't talk about it that much because it's part of a series. The first book, The City of Ember, we follow a couple of adolescents who are growing up in the city that they are told is the only light in the world. The world is completely dark. They rely on generators, and when the lights go out at 9 p.m. at night, they are in complete darkness. They are starting to get more and more blackouts, and the generators are starting to fail. And we follow these 2 kids as they try to either find a way to fix the generators or find a way out of the City of Ember, even though they've been told there's nothing else in the world, that they are the only light in the world. So that's the start of the story, and then we get the first 2 books following those characters and the inhabitants of Ember. And then this one, like I said, is a prequel, and like obviously we know this is some sort of post-apocalyptic thing. In this one we get kind of the backstory of the apocalypse, but not in its entirety. We are told from like the blurb that the story follows a girl who is going to end up being one of the first inhabitants of Ember. But I was hoping the book would have escaping this apocalypse to Ember, the creation of Ember. Basically, I wanted to see like that play out, but really you just get tension of this impending war, this impending nuclear war that's going to happen. And I liked a lot of the themes of the book, and I think it talked in an age-appropriate way about extremism, religious extremism, critical thinking, the difference between like rules and morals. In this town of Yonwood, there are some inhabitants that have set out some rules to try to be good people, but in doing so are kind of pushing their religious agenda and making and oppressing certain people. So I liked all that. I thought that was handled pretty well, but I just didn't think it fit into the story of Ember, and I don't think the prequel was really needed. The second book that I read was The Barren Grounds by David A. Robertson. This is a story where we follow a foster kid. She is Cree, but she has been raised in the foster system since she was a toddler and is very disconnected from her culture and has essentially been raised white. There is a new foster kid in her home, another Cree child, but he is very connected to his culture. I think it's insinuated that this is his first experience in the foster care system. So he has lived in community. He speaks some of the language, whereas our main character, Morgan, does not. Morgan and the new foster kid, Eli, find a portal to another world called Misawa, where there are these animals who walk on two legs, and they are living in a world of perpetual winter because previously someone else had come through the portal and had stolen all the summer birds away, and so they were trying to help get the summer birds back. So Eli and Morgan are helping them. Morgan is reconnecting with her Cree heritage, and this book has very much been promoted as a sort of Narnia tale, but with indigenous mythology surrounding it. I really liked the characters in this, and I liked the discussions of like foster care and how you deal with a disconnection from culture and family. I thought that was all very interesting, but I found the stuff in Misawa, the quest trying to find the summer birds, I didn't find that as engaging as it could be, and I found that very kind of like, this thing happened, this thing happened, this thing happened. So I thought it was a little bit boring in the middle. The last book that I read for middle grade March was A Wish in the Dark by Christina Soontornvat. This is a high-inspired fantasy set in this city built on top of the water. It had previously burned down in this great fire, and this mysterious person, like, from the mountains came down. He produced light. So he makes all of the light in the city so they no longer have to rely on fire. And they have these different orbs of different colors used for different things. So the red orbs are used for cooking and heating. They have jade colored orbs and crimson orbs and gold orbs. And this class system develops where the rich part of town these are the only people who can afford the gold orbs. And we follow two different adolescents. One was born in a prison and escaped. The other one is from one of these rich families. Their family is being threatened with like rumors, and she's trying to find and catch this fugitive so that she can restore some honor, some reputation to her family. I liked both of the characters. I thought the world building was really cool, visualizing this city built on the water with all these different colors of orbs. I thought there was some really cool stuff talking about authoritarianism and that kind of thing. Loved that book. The last book I'm going to end with, I haven't quite finished, but I'm very close, so I'm just going to throw it into this wrap-up, and that's Sorcery by Terry Pratchett. This is the 5th in the Discworld series. It really takes all of those fantasy tropes and turns them on their head. I just really, really get along with Terry Pratchett's sense of humor. This book follows the wizards. All wizards are 8th sons, and wizards are not supposed to have children, but then one of them does. He has an 8th son, and the 8th son of an 8th son becomes a sorcerer, and they are far too powerful, which is why wizards are supposed to be celibate to avoid this happening. And so this follows what happens when there is this young boy who's a sorcerer, and he comes to the wizarding university and takes over. This follows Rincewind, who's the original wizard from like the first couple of Discworld books. There are all these different sub-series. So there's like the wizards, there's like the witches series. I haven't obviously got to a lot of them. This is only my 5th. I'm reading them chronologically. But there's also like the death sub-series and like the City Watch. Everyone seems to put the Rincewind and like wizard novels at the bottom of the barrel and say that they're not as good as the other ones, but I love Rincewind and I think he gets a lot of flack, and I don't know why. I think he's just a super funny character to follow. He is incredibly cowardly. I love a reluctant hero type of a trope in fantasy, but it takes the reluctant hero trope and doesn't do anything with it. For example, when you think of the reluctant hero, like the Bilbo Baggins type, those are the type of characters that I really enjoy, the underdog. But they become heroes. Bilbo Baggins reluctantly goes on this adventure, and by the end he does courageous things and he becomes a hero in his own right. But Rincewind is one of these reluctant heroes where he never becomes a hero. He keeps his cowardice through it all, and I just love that. So if you ever hear a Pratchett fan talk about the Rincewind novels as being like the lesser novels, take that opinion with a grain of salt, because I think there is a lot to love with the Rincewind novels, and anytime he shows up in a Discworld book, even as like a background character, it makes me happy. I just like it. Anyways, that's my plug for the Rincewind / Wizarding subseries of Discworld. I hope you all read some lovely books in March. Please let me know down below what your favorite reads of the month were. If you've read any of these books and would like to have a chat about them, please leave a comment about that too. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.